British Prime Minister David Cameron is facing a barrage of questions from the opposition and members of the Parliament.
He said very clearly yesterday that the circumstances surrounding his resignation were completely different to the circumstances in Number 10 Downing Street. And frankly, if you look at, we've discussed this a lot today, the responsibility I have for hiring Andy Coulson, the work he did at Number 10, the fact he's not there anymore, that is, I would argue, completely different to the issues at the Met about a failed police investigation, about allegations of police corruption, about very serious problems in that organisation, and all the reasons that Paul Stevenson set out yesterday. I respect what he did, but he himself says the situations are different.
Jacob Rees-Mogg.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister has shown in his statement that his private office has behaved with absolutely compelling propriety, which compares amazingly favourably with sofa government. And I wonder if the Prime Minister would agree with me that the row over it is broadly synthetic and hugely over-egged.
I think my honourable friend makes a good point. What I would say about Ed Llewellyn, and members opposite know this is someone who has actually served our country working for, whether it was Chris Patton or Paddy Ashdown, in Kosovo, in Bosnia, in Hong Kong. He is, yes, of course, he's a Conservative supporter and a friend of mine, but he's a very loyal public servant who's done great things for this country, who I think is utterly beyond reproach. And I think on this occasion, as so many, his judgment was proved absolutely right.
Mr. Nick Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Prime Minister, can you tell us what specific advice the Deputy Prime Minister gave you against employing Andy Coulson?
I'm very happy to have answered this question once already. I can set the answer to music if you like, which is, like other people, some people looked at Andy Coulson and the fact he had been a tabloid editor at the News of the World and had resigned because of what happened to the News of the World. Some people advised me not to take him on. Now, I made the decision on the basis of the assurances he gave me. I couldn't have been more frank about it. And frankly, there is only now one tabloid editor left in an office of either the Prime Minister or the Leader of the Opposition. There's a tabloid Mirror editor sitting in his office, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if the Mirror don't have some questions to answer pretty soon.
Simon Kirby.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the Prime Minister think the Leader of the Opposition should apologise for Damien McBride?
Well, this is actually, I have, and the Chancellor has too. We did get, finally, although it took a while, an apology for the appalling thing. This was someone who was a special advisor who actually was sitting around casting appalling aspersions against people on the opposition front bench. And when you compare that conduct with the conduct of Andy Coulson at Number 10 Downing Street, who in his time at work no one is making a complaint about, I think it speaks volumes.
Ian Lucas.
Did the Prime Minister, when he was Leader of the Opposition, discuss with John Yates the issue of phone hacking?
Well, as I say, I can't remember every conversation I've ever had with John Yates. I did meet John Yates in opposition. I cannot remember how many times I met him. I've met him many more times in government, and predominantly what I've discussed with him is the issue of terrorism.
George Freeman.
Would the Prime Minister agree with me that one of the most lamentable episodes in this sad affair was the death of David Kelly, a proud civil servant whose name was thrown to the media pack, putting him under intolerable pressure which led to his suicide? Would he give me an undertaking that the investigation will be given the remit to cover and look back at how that event unfolded?
The point I make to my honourable friend is we have to be careful that this inquiry doesn't go completely viral, as it were. It has to focus on the issues in hand. Obviously, the issue of David Kelly it looked at in detail in terms of the Hutton inquiry, and I think that this inquiry has got to make some progress.
Natasha Engel.
Last week, Mr. Speaker, I read in the Daily Mail that the Prime Minister was about to appoint the ex-BBC journalist Guito Harry, but that after an intervention by Rebecca Brooks, he changed his mind and employed Andy Coulson. Is that right?
She specifically rejected that point yesterday. Guito now works for my good friend and colleague, the Mayor of London, and does a brilliant job.
Jason McCartney.